All right, I've brought you all here today because I want to talk about my second favorite film of the year, Rotting in the Sun.
Hey, follow me on Instagram, right?
I don't even know you.
You're not funny.
Inspire impersonation.
Your lasers so wavy.
You're the right person to work on the show with me.
Why are you like me?
Tell Sebastian that I am his worst nightmare and that nobody ghosts Jordan Firstman.
This is a movie that when I first saw it has just kind of sat in my brain, and the more I think about it and the more I watch it, the more it starts meaning to me. I think this is a film that is deceptively deep. It is intentionally amateur and brash in its sort of presentation and production. It's definitely not winning any awards for cinematography or music or sound design or set design. This is a movie that feels as bare bones as it comes. It literally feels like they flipped on a camera and just went, go. But this is a film that's also deeply rewarding on rewatch. I think also it should serve as a really good tentpole in queer filmmaking. It's so refreshing to see a movie that is just so uniquely original and just commits to what it's doing and kind of has no sense of shame about it. This is a film that is loud. This is a film that is cruel. This is a film that is incredibly, incredibly gay and wants all of its audience to know that and sit with that. It's confrontational. It's funny. It's sad. It's weirdly tragic at points. I think it's also deceptively ripe for discussion. It is a movie that on paper doesn't get too much done, but the more you start thinking about it and how grounded these characters are and what they all kind of represent, the more worthy the film feels of discussion. So today I just want to get into it. We're going to talk about topics and scenes that are quite full on, so I guess warning now, but if you haven't seen the film, I'm going to do a spoiler-free section run through and sort of my thoughts. And then I'm going to very, very heavily warn you when we get into spoiler section. And I do suggest actually finding the movie and watching it. It's free on Mubi. If you're in Australia, it's still in cinemas, but you can find it. It's online and it's on Mubi if you're in America. Do watch the film. I love it. If you don't want to know anything, just go watch it. Go watch it. It's loud, it's funny, it's dark, it's very gay. Go watch it. But if you need more of a sales pitch, we'll do the spoiler-free section, and then I'll warn you when we're about to get into spoilers. All right, so very quickly, we're going to speed run this movie. All right, so there are 2 characters you really need to know about. There are 3 characters in this movie you really need to know about. There is Sebastian Silva, who is a real-life director, is the director of this movie. He's playing himself, all right? He's playing a director. He is playing basically a dramatic, overly depressed version of himself. So there's Sebastian Silva, there is Jordan Firstman, who again is an influencer, an American influencer who's playing himself, and there's a maid character, Vera, who isn't playing herself. She's an actress. She's the maid at the place that Sebastian Silva lives. So our main character is Sebastian Silva. Now very early on, the movie starts and it very quickly establishes that Sebastian Silva is depressed. He is very sad. He's listening to The Trouble with Being Born all the time and just these heavy, depressing quotes. I'm pretty sure the opening quote of the movie is a line about how like the greatest relief in life is that you can exit it at any point.
Only the optimist commits the optimist who can no longer be optimist. The others, having no reason to live, why should they have one to die?
Basically, we just see a very, very accurate and well done portrayal of depression. It feels like a very millennial portrayal of depression. He's sitting there very casually Googling how to basically, in the most painless and comfortable way possible, and he comes across a drug called pentobarbital, which is a drug that is used to put dogs to sleep, that humans can also use when they want to exit this world. And this is important because it comes back later. So this first chunk of the movie, you're watching this heavily, heavily depressed character kind of just like live in his self-deletion fantasies. He has a landlord that lives with him who keeps making these jokes to him to basically commit to what he wants to do and egging him on to basically self-delete. And basically this friend and landlord and another guy basically tell him that he needs to clear his head and go to this nude beach. So he goes to this nude beach. He's still depressed. He's not engaging with the gay community around. It is established early on that he is gay. It is clear that when he gets to this nude beach, he feels very confronted and very alienated by just how out and proud all the other gays there are. But it appears he's not as comfortable with his sexuality as maybe he hopes to be, or maybe the people around him are pressuring him to be. Basically, after fantasizing about self-deletion for months, he then sees someone drowning out in the ocean. He goes to save them, fails to save them. They swim themselves to safety, and then he starts drowning himself, and then someone saves him. Very much that arc of someone who's been having these self-deletion thoughts when they're confronted with the idea of actually dying. They get kind of confronted and scared by that idea. He's visibly shaken, he's rescued, and then we are introduced to Jordan Firstman, the other guy that was drowning, who is an Instagram influencer, and compared to Sebastian Silva, incredibly flamboyant, incredibly out and proud, almost to an obnoxious degree.
Hey! Hey! Laugh! Laugh! Why don't you like me?
And this is something that the filmmakers and the actor, or Jordan Firstman, has talked about.
I didn't know who was gonna play Jordan, and in the movie that I wanted to make, wanted to criticize very sharply the sort of figure that Jordan was carrying, or even still carries in a way.
They are looking to explore this sort of clash. Basically, they start hanging out. Jordan Firstman wants to work on a show with Sebastian Silva. They want to make a show together. They get in a huge tiff because Jordan Firstman posts a video of Sebastian Silva doing ketamine.
That's what I do.
Like, delete that shit right now. Like, when I post my Instagram, you're gonna get followers from dude, delete that. No. Dude, yeah.
We're sort of presented with our first really, really strong scene of the movie where you just hear this clash of ideas.
God, leave it alone, dude.
Oh my god. Like, this fucking drama queen, I want to kill myself, suicide bullshit. Like, honestly, Sebastian, it's like, you think you're edgy, you're not edgy.
Why am I even arguing with you? Like, look at you. You're literally a clown. What's going on?
We have two gay men having this really, really harsh argument where they're basically tearing each other's personalities to shreds. You've got this sort of depressed, down on his luck, not necessarily closeted, but not super out and proud Sebastian Silva, head to head with Jordan Firstman, who just thinks everyone needs to be happy all the time, who thinks that Sebastian Silva just needs to get over his depression and just needs to start sucking some cock and doing ketamine.
You do gay, so what? You suck cock, so what? This man loves to suck cock.
Even though they're both really cruel and obnoxious to each other at different points, you get what both sides are saying. They both need to respect each other. Sebastian Silva shouldn't want Jordan Firstman to tone it down or be less happy. But in the same breath, Jordan Firstman shouldn't really be shaming Sebastian Silva for his depression or the fact that he's not as loud or out and proud as Jordan is. It's a really effective scene. I feel bad for Jordan at multiple points in this argument.
You can't hurt me, because I'm happy. I'm a happy clown. You could be happy too.
And in terms of Sebastian, I do think he's a bit of an asshole at times, and he is a bit ungrateful, and maybe there is something to be said about him trying to have a good time and trying to acclimate. Sebastian Silva as a character just feels like someone who is probably better off being left alone. The argument heats up and ends with this really great moment of Jordan Firstman basically like screaming like, "Why don't you like me?" They had an echo effect here, and it almost feels like a bit sort of uncomfortable.
Laugh! Laugh! Why don't you like me?
And it's basically Sebastian Silva gets home, Jordan Firstman keeps calling him going like, "Oh my god, you're my future husband, like, are we going to work on this show together, like, I want to hang out with you, blah 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 blah." After a failed meeting with HBO executives that Sebastian Silva has, that has one of my favorite punchlines of the movie.
Of course, we need a female director for this project, which is our bad, truly.
100% I understand that a series about like a virus that only kills men would have to be directed by a female director.
Of course it should.
Sebastian basically realizes that, hey, like, everyone likes Jordan Firstman. He's got a big level of influence. Maybe I should work on this show with him. So he invites Jordan Firstman over so they can work on this show. Jordan Firstman obviously seems really excited to work on his show, but he also seems weirdly excited just to hang out with Sebastian, someone he's been claiming is his husband. And he does clearly have a sexual and romantic attraction to him.
Yeah, spoiler alert. You're blind.
Now we're entering spoiler territory. If you're interested in the movie at all, watch it. Basically, Vera, the housemaid who's been treated just incredibly poorly by the homeowner Mateo, is asked by Sebastian to help him move the couch. They go up and they start moving the couch together, and she accidentally sort of trips. Sebastian falls off the roof and instantly dies.
What if I am Oprah?
Joven! ¡Putanero!
It's about 30-40 minutes into the movie, our main character is gone. No doubt about it, dead. And from here, The movie is basically just Vera the housemaid very clumsily trying to get away with the accidental murder or manslaughter of Sebastian Silva. The movie kind of picks up with tension and humor when Jordan Firstman finally arrives and basically from the jump is like, where's Sebastian? I feel like he's missing. I feel like he's been murdered.
Sorry, Espanol poquito, but I'm looking for mi amigo Sebastian Silva.
No, es que no sé.
Wait, Miss, do you know this is a picture?
No entiendo, no sé de qué habla.
Just look.
Watching Vera try and get away with manslaughter while Jordan Firstman is just so keen on seeing Sebastian because he both wants to make this show and was also sort of like allured by him is hilarious to watch. It's uncomfortable, it's stressful. The breakdown in communication is funny and I found incredibly engaging to watch. There are all these scenes where they're using Google Translate to kind of communicate with each other.
Tell me where Sebastian is. I know you know where he is.
Dime dónde está Sebastián, sé que sabes dónde está.
Pues no sé, el joven salió, no sé.
Well, I don't know, the young man came out.
But downstairs, I showed you a picture of him and you pretended that you didn't know him. I saw you. I found Sebastian's phone and his wallet. That's weird. What's going on? Where is he?
Encontré el teléfono de Sebastián y su cartera. Esto no es normal. ¿Dónde está?
Me avisó que usted iba a venir con alguien, que se iba a quedar aquí. Es eso.
Matthew didn't tell me what you were going to sleep here with the young man. I didn't know.
I don't... Hey, babe. Do you mind helping me for a second? I'm like...
See?
Can you ask where Mateo is and tell her I need to talk to him right now?
¿Quieres saber dónde está Mateo y porque necesita hablar con él?
And I find Jordan Firstman just such a compelling screen presence. He's a character that's stuck in my head ever since I've seen this movie. Along with Sebastian, I find their interplay of what we saw of it really engaging and really interesting. Anyways, basically, the movie kind of goes on for a while. I do suggest watch it, but it kind of culminates in this sequence where essentially after trying to hide the body, transport the body, Vera realizes she's failing. She's left the body of Sebastian on the roof. She orders a bottle of perbabarbital, that dog sleeping medicine that can be used for self-deletion by humans. She orders that and plants a box in a trash bin, so when the police investigate, they start thinking that maybe he did actually self-delete rather than being murdered or manslaughtered. The landlord is taken away for illegal substances on his building. She goes outside and ends up talking to Jordan Firstman and completely breaks down after the taxi that was meant to transport the body fails to show up. She goes to Jordan Firstman, opens the Google Translate app and basically pours her heart out with this long-winded confession.
You saw Mateo take the journals on the phone?
Así que viste a Mateo tomar los diarios por teléfono.
Da lo mismo el pinche cuaderno, vos, porque el joven Sebas está muerto. Fue un tantito mi culpa, pero fue un accidente. Estábamos bajando el sillón, pues pesaba mucho y el joven Sebas estaba hablando por teléfono y yo lo distraje un poco y entonces pues...
And then the kind of final sequence of the movie is Jordan Firstman listening to this confession, all these different details being lost in translation. There's probably enough there that he can figure out that she's had something to do with Sebastian Silva's death. And we basically don't see that confrontation. She walks off holding the bottle of perbabarbital, the self-deletion liquid, and it cuts off with sort of Jordan Firstman kind of looking over, trying to make sense of what he's just heard from the Google Translate, her walking off, holding the bottle in her hand, end of film.
The bloody voice notebook because young Sebas is dead and it was very silly my fault, but if I did know it was an accident because we were taking the couch and nothing and I thought a lot, then I started talking to someone I didn't know and I distracted him and I told him how you thought I am because I talked to the body. It didn't help me right now. I didn't believe I did a corpse right now. I was rotting.
So that is the film. Let's start talking about some nitty-gritty details. You cannot talk about this film without talking about the film's very gay, very explicit, and unsimulated sexual content and imagery. I think it's interesting. I think it's intentionally trying to provoke and trying to confront, and I think it's also trying to give you a glimpse into a world that like a lot of us don't know about and don't engage in.
You know, I'm not saying that every gay person is exposed to like, I don't know, sex parties, you know, or like just public sex or like that kind of sort of promiscuity.
But
it's
many are.
Yeah, it is part of the culture, whether you like it or not, you know. And then when I met Jordan too, like Jordan is very open about his sexual life and he's very affectionate. Right?
Affectionate.
Yeah, he's very affectionate.
Also, it's like I had a similar thing where like my team was like, "Do you really want to do? Why are you doing this?" And like I remember at the time, like when we first started, and I think it kind of stayed the same, but we were like, "It's funny." Like, it's funny to be sucking cocks on camera. To straight people, like, sucking dick matters. Like, it's like, oh my God, I sucked a dick last night. For gay people, it's like, I sucked 40 dicks last night, let's, like, get lunch. Like, it really just, like, the way a lot of us go about it is just way more casual. And, like, even sometimes I will suck a dick as a joke. Like, to my friends, I'll be like, is that fun? I'm doing with that guy.
I feel like the movie's mission at the start, at least, is almost to be like, here's what this world is like for sort of a lot of sexually open and like out and proud gays. I think Sebastian Silva as a filmmaker is trying to highlight the idea that not every single gay man fits into this really out loud brash box. You see that in the interview. You see how different Sebastian and Jordan's sort of demeanor is. And Sebastian does make a point to basically say that, like, whether you like it or not, like a big part of the gay community are sort of these orgies, these sex parties, this massive amount of almost like debauchery that a lot of straight people seem to like not engage in themselves, or if it is, it's very heavily stigmatized. I think it makes for a really compelling first half. There is something inherently engaging and sort of almost humorous in just how the sex in this film is presented. Oftentimes the film will cut right to or right from an incredibly sexual pornographic image. Also a great reveal in this interview that Jordan Firstman talks about the fact that he was actually contacted by Brazzers to direct and write a porno, and then his agent said no. So then when he got the chance to work on this film, he went, well, fuck it, I'll do this.
4 months earlier, I got an offer from Brazzers, which is like a very pretty intense porn company, not the most like politically sound. They asked me to write and direct a porn, and I really wanted to do it. I was so interested in like exploring sex on camera, and my agents told me I couldn't do it. And I was
write and direct or participate?
Write and direct. They were like, you can be in it if you want, and I was like, no, I'd rather just write and direct. But I was just interested in the concept of like, could I like link storytelling with real sex? And so it felt like such, the universe aligning when you asked me to do that.
Yeah,
I think the fact that Jordan Firstman shows his genitalia throughout this film, does various sex acts on film, unsimulated, and Sebastian Silva covers himself throughout the film. As blunt and as crude and as obnoxious as this film is at certain points, it does feel like it's looking to explore a sense of sadness, depression, and alienation that comes from being part of a community by virtue of your sexuality that you can't change, but not feeling at home with the people that inhabit that community. And I think it's actually a really tragic idea it's exploring. And I actually think if you rewatch the film and watch this early chunk before Sebastian Silva falls off the roof, I think it actually really is a good look and examination of just how maybe you can be out, you can identify as gay, but you still might not feel at home with the people that you should be partnering with. Jordan Firstman is completely infatuated with Sebastian Silva. Sebastian Silva almost seems irritated by his presence. He wants to like him, but he just can't do it. And Sebastian Silva's life is cut off prematurely before they can have that really big fight where Sebastian basically outlines to Jordan, I don't like you. I don't like what you represent. I don't like what it brings out of me. You know, Jordan Firstman doesn't get the message from their final fight that Sebastian only really wants him around so he can work on the show and get a leg up with HBO. It doesn't seem like when Sebastian passes away that Jordan has any idea that fundamentally Sebastian could not stand him. But I guess where the film gets interesting, however, is when Jordan Firstman arrives and starts looking for Sebastian Silva. He does actually seem rather concerned with Sebastian Silva's safety. He's not constantly walking around just going like, oh, I just want to get this show done. Like, where's this fucking idiot? He seems really concerned from a very, very like early point in time. Like straight away, he's like, something doesn't feel right. I want to figure this out.
Tell me where Sebastian is. I know you know where he is. But downstairs, I showed you a picture of him, and you pretended that you didn't know him. I saw you.
While Jordan is incredibly obnoxious and incredibly brash and confrontational, I think in the back end of this movie, I really start having some empathy for him. There's these great comedic sections where when the characters start worrying that Sebastian Silva might have actually like self-deleted, it cuts back to things earlier they said in the movie, maybe jokes around that topic, egging him on.
Pentobarbital. It's a barbital dog poison.
Veneno para perros.
This fucking drama queen, I want to kill myself, suicide bullshit. Like, I know you think it's edgy, but it's not. Suicide's for fucking fags. It's for faggots!
There's this great section where it cuts back to Jordan Firstman, and he basically said that suicide is for... And it's a hilarious quote. He basically slaps him. And then obviously when he's actually worried that Sebastian Silva has done it, he just feels awful. There's also this really tragic section where he reads Sebastian Silva's diary and sees what Sebastian really thought of him. And he realizes, oh, I've been talking about him like he's my husband. I've been talking about him like we're going to have like a romantic fling as well as working on this show. And then reading the diary, he just sees all this hatred and probably projection and self-hatred because deep down, Sebastian maybe wants to be as out and proud as Jordan is. But yeah, he reads this diary and it's just Sebastian just completely picking apart Jordan's character, his ideas, his creativity, like just completely shitting on him.
Anyone who hasn't died young deserves to die. You are nothing.
It's called You Are Me.
This is basic bitch content. You belong to the 0.01%. Obviously, you only have wide LA empty friends.
He's as harsh on Jordan as he is on himself. It's quite a sad sequence to watch, and as a result, Jordan Firstman then has like his own bout of sort of like depression, starts spiraling, starts engaging in reckless behavior, dressing up as Sebastian, sort of spiraling a bit himself. I think the next character that's important to talk about is actually Vera, because I think the important thing to note here is Vera seriously seems to care about Sebastian Silva at certain points. There's a point where she notices that he is depressed. She has a conversation about, why do you do these drugs? And he says, oh, because it helps me feel dead. And she shows concern. She tries to get him to eat. She tries to get him in good routines. She helps out with the dog. There's this really interesting section where basically she tells a lie and says like, oh my God, I found your dog with ketamine, which gets Sebastian Silva out of his depression rut briefly, out of bed, and now he has something to fight for. And it feels like she's doing this to basically remind him that there are things worth living for, aka the dog, and also showing that like if you don't want your dog doing these drugs, maybe you shouldn't be doing the drugs. So I think I find the movie really tragic because she actively seemed concerned in Sebastian Silva getting better, not self-deleting and taking care of himself, and then through pure misfortune and dumb luck, she kind of accidentally knocks him off the roof. And yes, she handles the accidental knocking off the roof like a complete idiot. However, I do actually get why she gets spooked. When the guy basically explains to her, what are the police going to say to you? I get it. I get the initial shock. I wouldn't have done what she did at kind of any point, but I get the state of shock she's in, and I get how clumsily she's handling it. While this movie in its early section feels like it's trying to explore the clash between really out and loud and proud gays and the ones that kind of want to be gay, just not like that, I think in the back end of the movie, it's almost looking to explore the way depression rubs off on people. Jordan Firstman basically says he's a happy clown at the start of the movie. He's pushing Sebastian Silva not to be sad, not to wallow in sadness.
You can't hurt me, because I'm happy. I'm a happy clown. You could be happy too. Work on my project with me. Hey, hey! Laugh! Laugh!
have? Why don't you like me?
And then we start to see that once he's exposed to Sebastian's inner thoughts, inner monologues in the diary, he basically, I don't want to say catches depression, but it's the most sad we see him. He seems really sad and starts having his own sort of like internal existential battle of like, who am I? And like clearly starts spiraling himself. And his demeanor for the rest of the movie is severely changed and severely dour. Now, yes, you can probably say that that's because he's responding to the idea that like this guy he really liked might be dead. And like, that's true, but also it feels like he's probably changed for good, or at least for a long time now. And similarly, Vera, the maid, who was pushing to keep her uncle alive, pushing to keep Sebastian alive, and constantly had a work ethic to try and improve and try and get better and try and improve her lot in life, walks off with a bottle of perbobarbital. She could have thrown away or poured down the drain at any point, but it seems like the final shot, the final closing shot, being her walking away, being like, I don't give a fuck, here's my confession, do with it what you will, and walking off with a bottle of perbobarbital almost implies that she also is having self-deletion thoughts and might do that herself if faced with the consequences of the roof incident. I think it's a really sad ending, the fact that basically all these characters almost start engaging in the thoughts that Sebastian had been having for a long time. Early on in the film, there's a quote from A Trouble with Being Born that Sebastian Silver is reading, where it basically says, greatest relief in life is knowing that you always have the option of self-deletion. Another quote talking about the fatal flaw with self-deletion is, by the time you actually do it, it's always too late.
It's not worth the bother of killing yourself, since you always kill yourself too late.
These are really grim ideas, but it feels like that at the end of the movie, that is the approach that Vera is almost taken. She's going, you know what, the police will do what they will with me, and I always have the option to take a swig of this perbobarbital. It's sad and cruel, and it feels like she was just sort of in the wrong place, wrong time, trying to help someone move a couch, and now, yeah, she's having to reckon with these ideas as well. There's a really great shot right at the end of the movie where Vera looks at the pentobarbital and almost looks back up after looking down at the brown bag with this look of like sort of relief almost, or just like, okay, well, that's always there. It's a really interesting, subtle, blink and you'll miss it look, but it's interesting that they included that and chose to end the movie there. I just want to mention a few things I love. I love the way this movie uses and portrays social media. There are these great montages of basically doom scrolling, and then characters will wake up in different points. Basically, it uses doom scrolling as a transition. I think it's a great sort of visual metaphor for how much time we waste on these things, and how you'll wake up and be like, oh, the sun's gone down. I've just spent 4 hours on TikTok.
The forest, yeah, a beautiful
Stop scrolling. Hey man, excuse me. Get a lighter.
For such an intentionally shitty looking film, I love how sort of trauma is portrayed, or even just like thoughts and inner monologues are portrayed. The way these characters basically flash back to events that are substantial to them, while a simple sort of flashback method is really effective. When Vera's having these flashbacks of what happened on the roof at various different points, I think it sums up sort of trauma very well. When Jordan and Mateo are both worried about the fact that they may have egged Sebastian on, the flashbacks they're having to different points in conversations, I think is really like well done. I think the film's sense of humor is actually like really, really funny. I find the whole section where they're singing Total Eclipse of the Heart at the cousin's birthday hysterical. I find the way Vera tries to kind of navigate the murder really funny. And yeah, I just love all these scenes of Jordan Firstman trying to communicate in languages he doesn't understand and using the Google Translate app. And again, the interview mentions the fact that they basically had to use that on set.
I don't speak basically any Spanish, and she basically doesn't speak any English. So we did have to use that same Translate app that's in the film to communicate offset. And it was a pretty tiring shoot as it is, and like chaotic. So we didn't have much energy to like really go through with that. So our relationship was pretty nonverbal.
This film's interviews are fucking incredible and hysterical.
And we had just finished making love. The next morning, he was like, I'm gonna go walk my dog, go shower, you rinse off all the filth on you. I knew as a person what would trigger Sebastian, and I kind of got to put that into the performance and like really know, like look into his eyes on camera, knowing what would annoy him.
When she had to like enter that scene where you're getting your ass eaten, she's like, I'm not watching this disgusting fucking movie. This is a disgusting movie.
She said in her, she posted about the movie last week, she was like a perverted something, like she was like for the perverted in nature.
Yeah, but it's like very forward, you know? It's like if he wants to see your dick, he'll ask you to show him
I mean, like I test the vibe first. I'm not gonna like make you show.
He asked Toni Collette to if he could see her dick.
That is true.
Hello, Letterboxd. This is Jordan Firstman, and today we are going to be reading some of the reviews for, what's the movie called again? I really wanted to say How to Train Your Dragon. A lot of cocks in this movie, and they all look hilarious. Agreed, mine included. I show some range. I start with Ocean Dick and then get, progressively harder as the scenes go on, but I think my dick does look hilarious in a couple of the scenes. I mean, I'm known for having one of the funniest dicks in the alt comedy scene. There's a lot of funny looking dicks, I will agree. One looks like a manatee, in my opinion. I won't say who, but you can watch and see for yourself. And then I want a Letterboxd review being like, I saw the manatee dick. Gay Sex and Sadness. Memoir title right there. Says not pathetic enough and therefore cowardly. Okay, I hate when people do this, but I think he was at a Q&A that we did where Sebastian talked about like cowardice, and I hate when people like take something you said and try to make it into their own thing against you. It's like you just heard the word coward today and now you want to write it in a review. You weren't thinking that word before and your point doesn't even make sense, so I'm going to your page. Okay. He didn't like Scary Movie 3. Okay, 3's not that good. He didn't like Passion of the Christ. Fair. Okay, I'm not finding so much I hate about you from your movie taste. Oh, okay. 5 for Asteroid City, girl. 5 for Asteroid City. Now, that's not pathetic enough and therefore cowardly. I mean, Jesus Christ. Explicit and super faggy, which is something I'm always going to be excited about regardless of actual success of the final result. You're so above it. Like, he gets to decide. I'll always like it because it's super fag. No, not to make fun of a gay person like that, but, he's not saying great things about our movie. I get to decide because I'm Cody Derricks, and I can decide what's good. And if it's super faggy, I'll like it, despite its lack of success. Cody Derricks' friends, can you tell me if that's what he sounds like?
I feel like if you watch the interviews and then you watch the movie again, you feel like you have a really good idea of who these characters are and why you should care about them. Anyways, if you haven't watched Rotting in the Sun, please do watch Rotting in the Sun. I love it and I can't stop thinking about it. And I would take a movie like this like once a week, once a month. I love how quick and intimate this movie feels. And I also love the way it's filmed. Like, I know it feels amateur and really just like in your face and like kind of fucking novice. But I think the way it's filmed adds a lot of intensity, hysteria, and it also feels weirdly voyeuristic. It feels like you're just fly on the wall witnessing people kind of behave. It doesn't feel like something that's been scripted. It doesn't feel like something that has been it doesn't feel like something that's been done for the cameras. I love the way sex is shot in this film. It's kind of these brief flashes, this sort of like, it's sort of presented in the way that you sort of like look away and avert your eyes. Like the camera will move like that and then kind of like move back the way you kind of look at a car crash when you really know you don't want to, but you kind of do. I think it's really well done. I think it's a really effective film. I think it's great. I don't think it's a masterpiece or anything, but it's some of the most fun I've had this year. And it also, again, incredibly thought-provoking. And I kind of admire just how far it's willing to go in its portrayal of depression as well as like homosexual sexuality. Definitely watch it. Thank you so much for watching and let me know what you'd like me to talk about next.